Each year, hundreds of thousands of walkers raise millions of dollars when they participate in a 3-day walk, walking 60 miles over 3 days. At least 18 different cities across the country participate in one of the biggest fundraising efforts in the world. So far, I've done it 4 times, and I'm going to be doing it again, this time in San Diego. Any support you'd like to provide would be very much appreciated. So if you'd like more information on how you can do that, please go to my website, lynndoyle.net. In just a few minutes, we're going to meet one of this year's participants. She's going to tell us why she walks for a cure. But first, let's answer some of the questions that you have about breast cancer research and treatment. Now, right before the break, I was talking about hormone replacement therapy and the concerns that have recently been addressed about whether or not you're more likely to get breast cancer if you're on HRTs. We have a question from one of our viewers, and this is that are postmenopausal women more prone in general to breast cancer with or without hormone replacement therapy? Dr. Brill?
So the studies have shown that hormone replacement over a longer term, over more than 8 years, 8, 10, going into 15 years with some of the studies, do increase a woman's risk for developing breast cancer. The risk that's incurred with hormone replacement varies if you look at the studies, but it's pretty consistent that there is increased risk. The largest study, the Women's Health Initiative that was published in 2003, was the one that came out that really made women more aware of the risk, and that showed about a 26% increase with hormone replacement over long term. So we know that there is some risk incurred with hormone replacement.
Now, what about the viewer's question, though?
Just
If you're
age.
older, are you at more risk?
It's the longer you have them, the higher your risk. We see
They're just a problem from the time they
No,
develop,
they're not.
aren't
They have a very
Age is an independent risk factor for
Yes.
breast cancer, so that with hormone
So
replacement.
the
yes.
longer you live, the
Yes,
more
that's
likely
why
you
it's
are
kind
to
of
become
cumulative.
a victim
Absolutely.
of it. Okay, but if you're doing the screenings and you're doing the self-exams, are you likely to catch it? I mean, if you're on the hormone replacement therapy,
That's the
like I
question.
am, I'm not concerned about it because I think, well, I take a proactive stance in my breast health.
Well, that's the thing about this study is these women were being followed with annual clinical exams and annual mammographies because they were on part of the study. And they were still found to have more aggressive cancers that had higher nodal status and an increased rate of death. And that's the concern because when the study first came out, 8 years ago, they thought that those cancers that were forming were low-grade estrogen receptor positive cancers that were going to be very treatable. That's why it's kind of a shift now because you have to say, okay, how do we deal with this effectively? And to me, it's not about getting alarmed and saying, oh my God, I've got to whip off my
Right.
hormones tomorrow. It's about saying, what are the symptoms that I'm having? How long is it reasonable to stay on the hormones? And have a plan with your doctor to figure out what your true risk is as a woman.
If you come off those hormone replacements, though, I mean, then that's a whole other ball
so
of wax,
some women
so to
say,
speak. I mean, that's a Pandora's box that you just don't want to open, trust me.
Some women think they'll go on hormone replacement. They'll stay on 3 or 4 years, maybe 6 years, and they'll get over that hump, come off and be beyond menopause. But when you come off the hormones, you'll experience menopausal symptoms again.
Yeah.
But being on hormones, having a good discussion with your gynecologist, and having the control of maybe tapering down on hormones in a very controlled way may make the menopausal experience a little bit more tolerable.
So are you, either one of you, willing to say if a woman is on hormone replacement therapy, they should get off it? Or is it an individual case?
I think you have to look at how long you've been on it and why are you on it. Are you on it because your doctor said, oh, you're going to get symptoms of menopause, let's start you on hormones now. To me, if you're not treating symptoms that are significant, then you may not want to be on the hormones.
Okay.
And there are other ways to treat hot flashes. There's acupuncture, exercise. You can do other, I know Lynn's like,
I'm laughing.
antidepressants, some of the SSRIs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm risking the check. But I think I got to move on there because we have some other questions.
Okay.
But thank you very much for covering that. We're going to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And this question from one of our viewers says, why does it seem so many younger women are being diagnosed these days? And I thought of you, Beth, just a couple of weeks ago because a friend of ours who'd been on the show, Allison Fawcett, passed away from breast cancer and just barely in her 30s. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we're seeing more and more women in their 30s being diagnosed, even women in their late 20s. So the question is, why?
there's probably not one answer for that question. One of the things that I think really plays a role in that is it's our lifestyle, particularly in the United States. We know that women that live in countries that have a lower risk, that adopt our Western diet, our our lack of exercise, our inability to kind of decrease our risk factors naturally. Lifestyle changes. In a study came out of Barcelona from the European Cancer Institute, showed that 30% of all breast cancers have a relationship to our diet, our exercise, alcohol, different things that we do. Now, I don't know if that's the reason why we're seeing it younger in women. Are they more aware? Are digital mammograms picking things up?
Or what?
It's something that, I know I just did the statistics for our center at Holy Redeemer, and we have an average of 10 years younger than the national average for our breast cancer patients. Now, Kristen and I may say, well, it's because we talk to our patients and, we spend a lot of time individualizing the care, and that may be why we're attracting those patients. But it was kind of scary to look at that and say, they seem younger.
Yeah, actually, the incidence of breast cancer has gone down overall by 2% since late 1990s, since 1998, but that's in women 50 and older. But I think maybe, I would hope that part of it is our sort of mass educating and screening programs and improved imaging technology. Digital mammogram is much more revealing than the old plain film screen mammogram.
And also ultrasound technology has changed dramatically over the past 10 years.
Our next question kind of touches on something that we started to talk about at the very top of the show, and it says, are there different kinds of breast cancer, and can you say that there is a most frequent diagnosis? Is there a breast cancer that's more popular than others?
There are different varieties.
How else to word that?
There are different varieties of breast cancer, and then even within those groups, for example, invasive ductal is the most common type of cancer we see. But then, not all invasive ductal cancers are alike, and a lot of our efforts and our technology has gone into really discerning finer features among that group of cancers. In general, non-invasive cancers, DCIS, which we consider stage 0, those confined within the breast, is also a common type of cancer.
Okay.
And we tend to be seeing more of the DCIS because of enhanced mammographic techniques. And that's where some people get into a debate and they say, are we finding all these non-invasive cancers in young women that's now creating, there's been a little bit of an increase in young women choosing bilateral mastectomies for treatment because they find it early and they say, I don't want to have it again. I don't want it, because they look at their, 60 years ahead of them in their life. And so it's kind of like we're in this shifting phase where we've gotten better techniques.
Okay, I have to take a quick break, but very quickly, we hear a lot about the screening and we hear about the test that tells you whether you have the gene, but your mother or a direct relative needs to have it before you can get that screening. Is that right? Or can just anybody go out and get screened?
Anyone, really, when you sit down with a geneticist, they will look at your family history and really what your risk is of carrying that gene. And normally you can map out some sort of family history.
Okay, that certainly has to be helpful to our viewers. You guys stick around just a little bit more. We have a few more questions.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to meet a woman who is walking in the 3-day, not only in Philadelphia, but also in San Diego. Find out why doing that means so much to her. So stick with us for that.